The original series script was just simply sent to me by Michael Waring, the producer, and he sent me these 2 dog-eared scripts, and it was called Magnox. Magnox are the names of the fuel rods that go into the nuclear reactor. I remember reading the scripts. I was editing something else. I didn't understand a word of them, but I couldn't stop turning the pages, so that's how it came about. At the time we started shooting, we only had 4 episodes, I think. The other 2 were written as we were shooting, and the ending hadn't been formed. In the end, I think it was 15 different endings were written. They're all sort of variations on a theme. When you shoot these series, you sort of finish them, and then you go on to something else, and obviously we worked very hard on Edge of Darkness. I had no idea it was going to get the reaction it got. And again, at the BBC, they don't interfere, they don't change anything. The length of the episode doesn't matter. The first time I ever got any inkling of the reaction was opening Time Out one day, and there was a double-page spread talking about Edge of Darkness, and I thought, this can't be the same thing I shot, so actually it was. I was always amazed at the BBC in those days because they just let you go off and shoot these series. There was no, I think I had 1 phone call from the BBC in 4.5 months of shooting, and I was in Gleneagles in Scotland at the golf course. We were shooting what was a big NATO conference there, and I remember the phone going literally in the room I was filming, and it was the head of BBC Two, who said to me, I hear you want 150 extras. You can only have 100. So I told him to bugger off, basically, and slammed the phone down on him. I never heard from the BBC again until I finished shooting.
Well, I think it was one of the first TV or let's say media looking into the world of plutonium and Iran and the Middle East kind of crisis, which, has come forward today has been relatively true. And I think on that, with the heartfelt of a man losing his daughter and how that would just feel to any parent, a lot of people could relate and were intrigued by it.
I saw it back in the 80s. It was pretty compelling. He was trying different kinds of things, very good performances in it. It was a mystery and a crime thriller, and there was a political thriller set in a time in the UK when there was a lot of union problems. And you saw a lot of political unrest, and it reflected its time very well.
And I said to Martin from the get-go that we really want it for Mel Gibson. Mel hadn't worked for a long time. It was a long shot for anyone to get Mel. Lucky enough, Beale wrote an amazing screenplay.
You look at some of the work he's done, from an action point of view, you've had all the lethal weapons. But you look at Zeffirelli's Hamlet, he's rather marvelous as Hamlet. I mean, he's capable of anything.
I love what he does, from Braveheart and all the way through his films. They're films you want to watch.
He's a very good director. I thought Apocalypto was just best film he'd made. A brilliant, brilliant film.
To have somebody like Mel Gibson portray this character is, I believe, tantamount to perfect. He's just got these wonderful, cold, pale movie star eyes that brim with emotion.
I was actually in one scene, which isn't in the film now. I'd never acted in anything before, and I just sort of glanced over at him and saw these sort of boiling eyes. He wasn't even on camera at the time. I'd never seen a look of such intensity coming off of another human being in my life, and I thought, Jesus, this guy's really good.
I'm a bit of a wreck today. Me and Mel are rolling around in the house, destroying it.
To be frank, I'm getting too old for this shit, to quote a memorable line from the film.
Those are good hits on the wall. Are you okay?
Yeah. It's not somebody's gonna half-ass anything. He just goes 100%, and he's throwing himself into stuff, and, we're breaking glasses and bottles here and there.
Cut. These cheap sets.
We're just 2 kids having fun.
You start trading pretend punches and wrestling around with a guy half your age, yeah, it leaves you sore. But you know what? Hey, I can still do it, and it looks real enough.
Got it! Yeah, I'm good.
Mel has always been a quality actor and a leading man. He is that, and he'll always be that. He doesn't take himself so seriously, which is quite lovely.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, shooting now.
All of you!
He's very fun and very funny. And he's incredibly generous, and he's got a lot of ideas. And because he has a lot of ideas, he's really open to receiving ideas, which is so good. That's the kind of person you want to be working with. because then everything becomes a collaboration. Everything. And it's not just your choice, it's everyone's choice, and everyone's either agreeing or arguing or disagreeing. It doesn't matter, but then there's passion in a scene.
The great thing about Mel is he's a very good actor, apart from being a movie star and very well known to people. He hasn't been in a film for a long time, but he still has that ability, and he still has that charisma, and he still has that quality on screen.
He is the picture. Mel is the picture. It's all an interior drama about how he feels, and Mel is. I always knew he was a good actor, but this is it's really got the cherry on the top, I think, in this one.
He just does an incredibly powerful performance, a very restrained performance. I think people who are expecting Lethal Weapon are going to be quite surprised at this movie. More importantly, he has a gravitas, he has a weight to him. Now, so many of these actors don't have that weight, particularly the young actors. He's one of those guys that when you call action, something sort of happens between the camera and him. He's very still in this film. He's very sort of contained, you know?
Stillness. Stillness has always been a stranger to me. He's very still. And I've tried to really, really rein him in. I'm inclined to pull too many faces and make too many movements in expression, but I think there's a degree of control. And he's not an extrovert, he's a very introverted man. So I proceed that way. You're just a ball carrier for the story, and if you think the story can work and it'll be compelling and entertaining to an audience, well, you're on board. You know, it's pretty simple.
We were so lucky to get this guy back in front of the camera. He's just so talented. I think for 6-7 years that we hadn't seen him, you know, I think an audience has missed him.
Action! He's been around, Martin, you know. A lot of our great directors came out of the BBC and out of ITV. BBC especially was like a school, you know. And Martin Campbell was one of those that came through, you know, with Alan Clark and the Frank Rodhams and all them kind of people that came through.
Martin knew the right strings to pull at the right time, and that's what we needed. I think it's there on the page. And what he did so great was to bring it out of the characters. And he did that really well.
Hey, you're on camera.
And you've got a real pro in Mel that collaborated and helped.
And literally, as his eyes come back up.
Yeah. He's a veteran. He's been around a long time. He knows the material well. He's a good shooter. He covers things in an unorthodox manner. I've never seen anyone shoot that way.
Action. I think he likes the action stuff, Martin. I mean, watching the Bond movies and all that, you know.
He has a real understanding of the size of a picture, the chase sequence, or a shootout, making it big but realistic, gritty. One of the most chilling moments in the film that I saw him shoot was this girl who's informing Mel Gibson in the car about his daughter, and she's about to get out of the car, and then doesn't, continues the conversation, and then steps back out of the car. It comes out of nowhere, you don't expect it. That was a lot of fun to watch him set those kind of things up. Sudden bursts of violence that come out of normal sort of moments.
He's really sane and really together and really detailed and so focused. He's so good to work with. You just know when you walk onto a set, you can just trust him, and he loves what he's doing. What more do you want in a director?
The shooter, please. Father's a Boston detective.
It's definitely in Martin's hands, as I was, you know, coming in to the 11th hour, I was in Martin's hands because I didn't have time. I couldn't argue script points that much because, obviously, I had no time to do any work on them, so I was kind of plonked into Martin's hands, and I had to trust him, which, you know, you do. You trust your directors anyway. They're the conductor, you know, they bring it all together, so if you don't trust your director, then you shouldn't be there.
He's so well prepared. He knows the script inside out. You cannot challenge him on anything. He has an answer for it all the way down the line. If you say, well, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? He'll explain to you at length exactly why he's doing these things, which makes it easy for me as a cameraman because he can say to me, I'm going to use this huge room, and you go, gosh, you know, I'm going to need thousands of lights here. And he'll say, but I only want to see that corner. I'll never look this way, and he'll stick to it.
That's good. Okay, hold it there.
And there are very few directors who can come on the set with that sort of preparation. A lot of them like to ad-lib and like to feel it as they go along. Martin does all of that in his office. He sits there with the script, and then he'll go to the location. He'll spend 4 or 5 hours just walking around the location and seeing where he thinks the best place is to put the actors.
He'll be on set with a flashlight at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's a very energetic and enthusiastic man, and he's very, very good at what he does.
Craven! Louder! Craven!
I told Martin that it reminds me of a Jacobean tragedy that they used to write in the 17th century in England by guys like Turner or Webster or those guys, where you set your characters up. You have your vindicator and you have your other characters, all with nasty attributes, usually with names that reflect the nature of their character. And then you play cat and mouse for 3 acts, and in the end, everyone murders each other, you know? And even the good guy perishes. And they were very popular in the 17th century. I mean, Shakespeare's contemporaries, they were more for the people, and they'd write a lot of revenge stories, revenge tragedies. This, in a sense, reminds me of that classic structure from way back then.
I think darkness is the absence of truth or the impossibility of truth. The true villain in this film is the sort of deniability culture. If you're going to do something like this at all, you've got to make it say something about where we are today. And where we are today is, it's all about deniability, deniability, deniability. That's all it is, and it's actually evil.
I don't know what you're talking about, and surely you're not saying it.
Nobody will stand up for anything. Everything is, you know, fudged.
Fuck you. It's classified. Still works as far as I'm concerned.
The characters that surround the story have this political slime feel about them, where you don't really know where good and evil is. Really, it's kind of shady. It's gray.
Can I ask you a question? What does it feel like?
I love playing characters that are potentially evil, but reason them out to the point where I don't think they are anymore. And I don't think evil characters think that they're evil necessarily. Or if their actions are, they find a way to justify them.
He's a villain, but he's not your normal everyday, you know, villain. He's a business guy, which is so timing for this, for nowadays with Wall Street and everything else.
It isn't what it is, Tommy. It is never what it is. It is what it can be made to look like.
Even with the people that the policeman works with, the other detectives, you're not quite sure where their alliance is.
Mr. Craven, we have things to talk about. Like your name and what you're doing here?
There's something romantic about Jedburgh. He has an old-fashioned, almost Second World War approach to right and wrong. And he's quite truthful. Out of all the characters, he's probably the most truthful.
I'm not walking in the dark with you. You're a wise man.
It takes a tiny little push to completely transform any sort of appearance in the world. So there definitely be people out there who are appearance artists. And that's something that's interested me thematically for a long time.
Anyone who looks at this is going to see that something happened, but no one's going to be able to figure it out.
It's almost like playing God in a way, you know? When you believe in a country and you believe in a political view or the way a country should be run, whoever your people might be, the right wing, the left wing, or your tribe, you will do the most atrocious things because you feel it's right. Jedburgh's a clever man. I think Jedburgh is a cold killer, but knows how to maneuver. He knows how to work people, you know?
He kind of dances around his characters a little bit like a sort of cobra. And hopefully, once you've finished a meeting with him or a conversation, you'll feel somewhat satisfied, but you don't quite know what he's said to you.
Jedburgh actually makes an open reference to Diogenes, you know, going around with his lamp, looking for one honest man.
How'd it turn out? Well, for him, I don't remember, but you and I did pretty good.
Most people wouldn't go to the trouble of investigating it too much. They just get even. And of course, that's something that we'll play with in the story, which is, you know, he could just cut to the chase and go around, but that would detract from reason.
I'm the guy with nothing to lose and doesn't give a shit.
He'll stop at nothing to do it. with no concern for his own life. He's prepared to take this to the wall, and if it costs him his life, so be it.
He used to have a scene that was dropped where he paid for his own funeral, which is a pretty clear indication of the one-way ticket this guy's assumed.
Not yet.
You know it's not going to end up good, but it's a war of attrition. He'll take everyone with him if he can.
Don't know if I can make it.
You have to.
In the series, what happened was she comes back in Craven's mind and leads him through the labyrinthine plot. In the series, it was about her wanting her father to complete what she couldn't. And effectively what we do is she comes back and talks to Craven.
Are you all right? Dad, are you all right?
Yeah, fine.
It's obviously in his imagination, in his mind, and so we have her reappearing visually, so to speak. So in a funny way, I guess it's her ghost.
I figured if your daughter was killed, even though you'd remember her at every age, where you'd most remember her would be when she was at her most defenseless and tender, which is why I made Emma a toddler in the script that I wrote.
Okay, sweetheart, I'll be right there in a little while.
Now, Boyana plays the older Emma, so we still do have the older Emma.
The one thing that everyone agreed on in terms of what happens when Emma comes back, even though she's dead, is that she doesn't come back as a phantom figure.
You go through the whole gamut of, we could have a ting and a flash and she's there, and I dropped it all just for, and simply shot her for real without any tricks at all.
I think simplicity usually has a stronger effect if you can get it over that way. Obviously, it was a question of whether the audience takes it, no matter what we think, it's what the audience thinks. So we hope that simple approach and that direct approach will be the one that they'll respond to.
I love the element of her coming back to be with him. It's actually really simple because it's how he wants to remember her, She doesn't have a big white sheet with 2 holes cut out of it, although we've been making jokes about that. And she doesn't come back as a ghost in white or with blood, She comes back as he remembers her so that she can help him. It's funny because he needs her and she needs him even though she's dead. It's amazing, and she comes back to spur him on to do what she was trying to do, which is expose this corruption. And he needs her, and he needs to be able to talk to her in order to be able to do that. To me, it seems like a really acute exploration of grief, because, in the first however many pages, a daughter dies. Like a father loses a daughter. I don't think there can be anything more traumatic, really, to happen to a person because he has nothing left.
She'd just pop up after she was dead and start talking to him. But she wouldn't say anything that couldn't have been conceived in his own mind.
Don't cry, Dad.
I'm not. It was an exercise in him not being quite with it. I mean, the stress, the strain, the traumatic experience of losing someone close to you like that had him just a little unhinged and probably walking around most of the time in a state of a near breakdown.
Who's one of those sweethearts?
She gives him little hints, and I think she motivates him into finding the enemies or finding the killers and doing what's right. We have a wonderful emotional ending with them both walking down the hospital corridor, so it all kind of ties up.
I'm mostly interested in subtext and of using music in a way to put depth into the story and to broaden the edges of the frame and create more depth of character, more intensity to the story. The score that I wrote for the film is very much connected to the Mel Gibson character, Craven. It's very much to bring the audience to him and to connect to him emotionally and what he's experiencing, what he's feeling in the story. The piece is written for, I think it's about a 75-piece orchestra. Through the orchestration, which I do myself, I'm just graduating the orchestration from the beginning, from these very quiet scenes in the beginning, to these more brutal, violent scenes. as the story unfolds, the mystery of the story is all expressed through the sound of the orchestra. You have to write towards the finale. It's very important to understand the emotional arc of the film. Writing music, it's an emotional language. You're writing by design about how you feel. It's not that intellectual a process. Later on, you can intellectualize it more than you can when you're actually creating it. But what you're doing in the early stages is just a response. So how an actor moves is very much part of the response of how you write. It might affect how you write rhythmically, how the counterpoint works in the scene. I mean, those are all things that I think they just happen intuitively. So if you feel something really strongly, you're going to connect with it and write to that. And then other pieces are just hard work. It's just working through the compositional process, really, of finding the right tonalities, the right type of counterpoint and harmony that fit the scenes, the right type of orchestration, the use of solo instruments, the delicacy of the orchestra, and all those things. I mean, it's just, it's just a process that you go through. And you might discover something in the middle of the film, in the third reel, that will then relate to something that you did earlier, and you might go back and readjust the beginning so that you always looking to the arc of it. Writing's a cumulative process. As you've written your way into the story, things get more clarity, you start to see how everything relates. I like to make the score very thematic in the sense that it has a nice balance to it, and that there's relationships between the beginning and the middle and the end of the story. So it really has a shape. There's a deep sense of mourning in the beginning of the film. He suffered a huge, tragic event, and you begin there, and then there's a slow awakening and discovery process, tracking the story and trying to uncover the truth of what happened. Really, film music is like a bridge from the film to the audience. It's a way to bring you into the film, to take you to that place. And you can do it in a physical sense, but you can also do it in an emotional way. And then what I was attempting was to bring the audience to the heart and the soul of this character.
Background action.
Someone years ago had sort of suggested we made it into a movie, and I kind of pursued that idea. I met Graham King and I said, look, I'm going to try and make a movie of the series. And he said, well, make sure you come to me first when you get the script. We had a writer called Andrew Bovell, an Australian writer, very good. I think he went through 8 to 10 drafts of the script, and he did a great job of reducing the script to 120 pages, 2 hours. What happened was we could never get the third act right, because in the series, the character of Craven and the CIA operative Jedburgh go down into the mines to discover the illegal plutonium that's being manufactured down there. And of course, that's meaningless now. Nobody's interested in, so what? You're making plutonium. There's no drama in that. These days, really, people aren't interested. And so every version, we tried to get the wow factor of what they discovered down there. Well, of course, you can't discover anything that goes well.
He brought me the script, and we decided to give it a shot and develop it. And one night I was sitting at home and decided to call a good friend of mine, Bill Monahan, and told him a little bit about the series and said, I have the DVD of the series for you to watch, plus I have this script, and I'd love you to look at it. And about 4 days later, he called me up and he said, I love it.
I responded emotionally to the material. It was about a father and a daughter. I have a young daughter, and basically you just put yourself in the shoes of the protagonist. What would I do if this happened to me?
We knew we had to change a lot, and we knew that we could use the premise of the miniseries, and let's say the central plot.
What do you know about Nightflower?
But everything else had to be updated, and it had to be modern times. And Bill captured that.
At foundation level, the story is the same. You have the same kind of mystery and the same sort of emotions from characters, but I think you have to contemporize it somewhat and, look into the era we're in.
The series really shouldn't hang over this film at all. It's only the premise. Andrew Bovell's brief had obviously been to condense the series. It was incredibly faithful to the Troy Kennedy Martin thing. It was a condensation to feature length of the entire Edge of Darkness series, with underground tunnels and the whole 9 yards, including attitudes that were definitely carried over from Thatcher's Britain, Greenham Common, that sort of thing. They gave me the script, and I looked at it, and I went, father-daughter. We took the premise and ran with it in a different way, different context, different country.
I did a lot of work with Bill on the script. We did a lot of adjustments before we started shooting. You have to treat it as a new movie. You can't think back and say, well, I did it this way, therefore I'm going to do it this way. I just treated it as though it was a completely new subject. I shot the movie in a very different style. The movie is shot very simply. There's no flashy camera work. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. And the reason for that is simply letting the characters do the storytelling, basically. I think the movie is more emotional as opposed to the series. I think the series is much more political. You know, the story is more a mosaic, if you will, of the political map at the time.
It was a challenge because you want to stay away from politics. This is not a movie about the Middle East. It's not a movie about Iran or Iraq or nuclear weapons being sold. That's not what we're trying to show an audience here. This is a story of a father who loses his daughter. And why did he lose his daughter? Bill managed to stick to that plot that Martin was so passionate about.
We located the story in Boston, ironically not for tax reasons, which just happens to be a good tax break. It was always written for Boston, even long before we were actually greenlit to make the film. There's a lot of universities, MIT, all these places are up there, and it just felt the right place to do it.
Once you have a character who's from there, as Craven is, it's just one of those Roslindale, Massachusetts guys. Once you've got the character centered in Boston, the rest of it sort of assembles itself as he moves through the world.
It is a character. It's a real thing. It's gritty. You hear it in their voices, in their attitudes, in their wits.
I got nothing. Nothing. I don't have enemies. I never lived life or said what I thought enough to have enemies.
Listen, you know I understand.
I'm not starting a personal conversation with you, Bill. Don't get nervous.
Your environment's very important in any world. I mean, we're entering a world here. It's firmly rooted in, probably, I'd say, in the United States, it's probably the closest thing to almost kind of European history that we've got here is Boston. And it's got really interesting history, too. You know, the wall's almost talking to you there.
I don't know, it's got a real colonial feel to it, you know? It's almost like going home a little bit, you know? And all the names, you know, it's Chelsea, Manchester. You go down to Southie, I go down there with a couple of the boys, the Teamsters, you know?
Public drinking is illegal in Massachusetts. Everything's illegal in Massachusetts.
It's like the old story, you're either a cop if you come from there or you're a gangster, you know? But, you know, you go there, it's like the East End of London. You go down there, it's just normal people having a drink and partying and all that. But the Boston itself is, especially after coming out of New York, all of a sudden it opens up, you know? You can see the sky and it's a beautiful city, you know?
There are two traditions which seem to have melded there. You've got the Emersonian Yankee tradition, and you've got the Irish Catholic tradition. Both strands blending together. It makes for people who tend to take some pains in telling the truth. People in Boston seem to think the truth matters. Craven's attitude is somewhat like that. The scene where he goes after the other cop and questions why police should get more help in an investigation than the ordinary citizen.
You know how I react to things like this. Officer involved.
Officer involved. Well, we ought to do that for everybody, right?
Well, if you want to get philosophical, I get philosophical.
There's a supreme fairness and a dogged determination to say something true if you're going to say anything at all. If you're not going to say something true, just, you know, put a cork in it.
Listen, asshole, this is not about police, okay? This isn't about police and arrest and all that nice shit. This is about me knowing what I have to know and the fact that you got to tell me.
The Boston context isn't sort of pasted together. It's sort of from page one.
It's a tried and tested whodunit. I mean, the opening of the film where somebody shoots his daughter and he thinks, and everybody thinks it's for him, is then going to keep you guessing.
This is not one of those Fast and Furious sort of knock-em-up kind of thrillers. This is a thinking man's thriller, really. There's a lot to think about. You just have to make sure that you can intrigue an audience, you can keep them on the hook, but you just have to make sure you don't keep them on the hook too long, because then they get frustrated. An audience in this movie uncovers the information as Craven uncovers it.
It's more cerebral, and hopefully there's some tension. Sometimes it doesn't pay to spell it out too much. It kind of stacks it all up for you, and then you let the dominoes fall. But there's some interesting characters in this that all kind of meet in the middle somewhere.
They often said good movies are based upon what you take out, not what you leave in. Although it has action in it, And it has a sort of a Jacobean tragedy feel to the whole thing. It's going to stay very simple. Nothing tricksy. I think simplicity, that haunting simplicity, usually has a stronger effect.
I love a thriller. It's like really, really great old thrillers that they used to make in the 70s. Now thrillers are kind of, there's lots of car chases and all that kind of stuff, but in the 70s, a lot of it was down to the intrigue and, you know, the political situation was going on. This is like that.
But it doesn't hurt to sort of like let the, you know, cork pop out of the bottle sometimes. Especially if it's unexpected. And it only works if it has some kind of wit to it, I think. You can't just do it for the sake of doing it anymore. I mean, we've seen every kind of action kind of combo you can imagine, from people sort of, you know, riding one-legged on bicycles using semi-automatic weapons to, you know, people hurling flying saucers with their might. It's pretty hard to impress with pyrotechnics anymore. Film has gone beyond. So it has to have another purpose. It's not full of special effects. It's about human beings. And it's a mystery.
There's a really exciting kind of enigmatic quality to the story, and you want to know what's going to happen in the story, and that's very exciting. But in terms of Mel giving a performance of a father who's lost his child, I think that there's a lot of emotional drive in it too, which really excites me.
You're intrigued by the story and by the characters and how they're going to react. And if they react in ways you don't expect, so much the better.
It's an intelligent story. You know, is it a drama or a thriller? You know, I think it's a bit of both.